2, 1. Hey there, listeners. Welcome to another episode of On Beat Off Script. My name is Brandito, and I'm joined by wonderful co-hosts, Incredibob and Mel. And today we're going to go over some of the new albums that have dropped over the last 2 weeks here, and talk about some new music. We're going to kick everything off with a little bit of Superheaven. Now, I know we covered Deafheaven, obviously, last time.
Right.
If you're thinking Superheaven and Deafheaven, same band, no, not even close. They're so unbelievably different. Who is Superheaven, you ask? I got an answer for you. Superheaven's they're an American alt-rock band from out of Pennsylvania, consisting of Taylor Madison and Jake Clark as lead vocals and guitar, Joe Kane on bass, and John Bowes was initially on drums until 2012 when he lost that spot to Zach Robbins. They're very much reminiscent of like the 90s grunge and shoegaze scene, starting in 2008, releasing their first EP, Sinking, and then in 2009 actually as the band Daylight. They were forced to change their name, unfortunately, in 2014 due to a legal dispute with a Spanish band that was already called Daylight, it turns out.
Awkward.
But then following their second release, Ours is Chrome, the band kind of just went inactive. Madison and Clark started their own band, Webbed Wing, and dropped their own debut album in 2019. Drummer Zach Robbins went on to work on a bunch of other collaborative stuff. And bassist Joe Kane he actually started a carpentry business. So now we've covered HVAC and carpentry in the same episode. So in case you guys are looking for carpentry or grunge metal needs, Joe Kane might be your guy, it turns out. But either way, they disappeared from the scene almost entirely, just kind of doing some small shows maybe every once in a while along some bands. They ended up playing alongside like Turnstile, Knocked Loose, Basement, but never really did anything as a band themselves other than doing these kind of side shows until 2024 when they released the single they released a single called Long Gone. Fittingly enough, like that was full 9 years after their last album dropped. Then they mentioned they would be releasing another album, continuing with 4 more singles. The reason that everything kind of ended up coming back together was because off their debut album Jar, one of their tracks ended up gaining huge popularity on TikTok and other social media platforms, and it was being used as a song for a ton of other videos. And they were like, "Hold on a second, like why are we making more money and having way more traction now while we're not active than we were when we were active? Maybe we should go ahead and be active again, because it seems like we're kind of popping off right now. So like let's get back into it." Kind of brought the whole band back together, which is kind of cool. I don't know a lot of their previous work myself, but apparently this is kind of a little bit more metal than they've been in their previous stuff, and kind of incorporating like a little bit of a heavier kind of sludgy sound to everything that they're doing here. Again, they're kind of they're an interesting crossover of kind of like a post-punk shoegaze grunge style kind of all together. This is sounding like it's going to be a little bit more kind of metal in that sound, kind of a post-metal style with their conventional sound of that kind of shoegaze 90s grunge vibe, and we'll dive into it so you guys can understand exactly what we're talking about. But before we do that, Bob, Mal, do you guys have any talk about Superheaven before we dive into some of these tracks?
Just that I had no idea who these guys were, which is again the case with 80% of the music we listen to.
I'm gonna get that put on your tombstone.
Yeah, really. I've never heard this before.
I've never heard of this guy before, but
yeah. I will say, like, the main takeaway I had from this album, which I'll of course go into later when we give our final ratings, like this is the first album that really made me understand like what shoegaze was. Yeah. I think this is a great example of what shoegaze is. And I think I realized that I really, really like shoegaze, honestly. So
for sure, you're a '90s alt guy. '90s alt shoegaze kind of go hand in hand.
Absolutely,
kind of thing. Like it just they're one step. They're walking together everywhere they go, kind of thing, right?
Yep. Hand in hand. Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple pecks on the cheek on the way by. Yeah, they really. It's really, really kissy in public. It's weird.
Yeah. I'm fine with it, but it's 2025.
2020.
Mel, yourself?
So for me, again, I also never have heard of them, but something I thought was really cool about the album is that the entire time it felt really like familiar and like almost nostalgic, which gave it kind of like a cool vibe for me. It kind of instantly drew me in because of that. So I thought that was, I don't know, I was impressed with how they managed to make me feel right at home right off the bat. I was interested by it. Yeah.
For sure.
It's a good
Absolutely.
take.
And
It's a good take.
speaking of right off the bat, we have Humans for Toys. And let's just dive into it. Let's just hear it first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Brandito kicked us out of the listening party.
Pretty good.
Brandito has minimized their application. Sit tight.
Will it still go on the recording? That's the question.
Oh yeah, I put it in post.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I could hear it playing. Was that through Brandito? I don't understand.
Oh, was
how I
it?
missed
Oh, no.
Yeah, we couldn't hear it.
You
Whoops.
paused. You paused it on us. We couldn't hear it.
I don't know how I did that.
I think minimizing maybe. I
Minimize
don't know.
their application. Sit tight. Is this what we're getting?
Oh, that's annoying.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
good to know. We're jamming out to it, then it just disappeared. I'm like, wait.
Yeah.
And it was very faint.
And I can't hear anything when the clip's going.
Right, yeah.
I genuinely can't hear anything.
you were
Like,
just
it's so loud
Yeah.
on my end.
Yeah. But
But, yeah, so, I mean, obviously it starts off, it's very clearly grunge. Like, it's right on the nose. It is still a little bit, more metally just with how heavy everything is throughout it. But, yeah, it's quintessential grunge. The influences of 90s grunge are just all the way there.
Oh, yeah.
But just a little bit heavier than a lot of grunge is, you know? Like, it's
yeah, something I feel like I hear a lot in this album, and I think for the better. There's a lot of kind of a little bit of Alice in Chains in here, a little Deftones.
Yeah.
A lot of those really 90s, early 2000s grunge bands, shoegaze bands that. There's a floaty, cool riff in here. It kind of brings you in right away. I'm early in this album I'm in. Like this is good. This is great. Having a good time with it.
for sure. Mal?
So it's funny. So I had my AirPods, and because there's like a very like quiet opening where it's almost like silence for a few seconds, I made the mistake of like blasting up my volume because I was like, why can't I hear shit? And all of a sudden it fucking wrecked me. So that was interesting. I would like almost shit my pants sitting at my desk. But one thing I want to know though, and I'm going to call back to Def Heaven because y'all were talking to me about how you appreciated how the vocals sat behind the instrumentals so much in that album. And I think that's something that is working so well here. And I just like, I appreciate that because like I feel like he's sitting behind it, but I can still hear what the fuck he's saying. It gives it a cool depth. And yeah, I appreciated that. Where I was like, Def Heaven was a big no for me. So far, this is a big yes. And I thought the subject matter was just very topical. I was like, everyone's fucking out here struggling, man.
It's political commentary at its greatest.
Yeah.
Children burned alive, money's everything. Like, just that's
Not
just so
holding
on
back.
the nose, almost like. It's like, oh, wow, okay. Like, children are burning alive, and money is everything to a lot of people, and that's about as concise as you could say something like that.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah, not pulling any punches for sure.
No,
Yeah,
100%.
I thought it was a really cool start.
I enjoyed the opening track on this. I think it sets the mood for exactly what you're going to get for the rest of it, and sometimes it makes you have to change your pants. I mean, that's the way the music goes.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't make the mistake of like turning your volume to 100 because you think you forgot to turn it on, like you'd be fine. But not. I was like,
A little bit of hearing loss. Yeah. No big deal. Oh!
That plays into Numb Is What Is Real, which, again, is kind of another very nostalgic feeling track. I think that's one thing that I really appreciated about this album is just the nostalgia factor of it. Mm-hmm. It feels very, like Mel said, very familiar. It is 90s grunge style just in 2025. And I think that that's something that they do really well. If you liked that then, you're going to like this now kind of a mentality about it. Which is kind of cool to me. But we'll play a little clip here.
Wrap my head around this. My emotions start to mix. Except the good and the bad feels no different. Where the line meets the floor, shining bright on what is lost. It's a pain that goes on and on, can't escape it anymore.
I like the drums in this. It's very simple beat,
Yeah.
but they're kind of featured a little bit here.
Yeah, my
and it
first
just
note is
goes
I
along.
liked how prominent they were. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got these really open drum breakdowns that give it a lot of space to kind of do a lot with less, and I definitely appreciated that part of it. Like that's something specifically that I did write down.
Yeah.
Again, another the nostalgia that I can like mention with it, with these over filtration on everything, these shoegazy vibes over this kind of metal riff all the way kind of throughout it. I will say that it did kind of start to bore me after a little bit. Like this is where I wanted to get something a little bit heavier to like break in at one point, and like I wanted a little bit of that hit in the face, but it was still a solid track. I really like the solo in it. I think the solo kind of gave me a little bit more of that heaviness in it. Mm-hmm. That kind of gave me what I was looking for, just not quite enough in my opinion. But like otherwise, it was a fine track.
Yeah, these songs all have kind of that fuzzy, atmospheric sound to them for sure. And I think that this song in particular, I felt the same way. I wouldn't say it bored me, but it was definitely like, okay, it's more of the same. Let's give me a bit more heavy, give me a bit more flop, give me
change up, even if it went the other way,
absolutely,
and then came back in. Like either direction would have been fine for me. I just needed some sort of change up somewhere.
Yeah. And I talk about Deftones constantly on this for whatever reason, because this is a great comparison. I think Deftones does that really well. They go the hard, soft to hard, and that kind of keeps you in the song more than this one did. But as background music, as like atmospheric music, like I loved this. I think it's really good in that way.
Yeah, I wasn't bored by it. I thought this, like, his vocals, I liked how, like, the drums were keeping a pretty good pace, but I liked how drawn out his vocals are. It gave me, like, a quality of, like, this is, like, a scream sing anthem. Like, I could easily just, like, belt along with him with this. Mm-hmm. And also, like, the content is we're talking about, like, numbing ourselves. So, like, it kind of just, I think the tone of the song goes well with that.
It's a good take.
I can get that, yeah. That
is like, it's kind of just, like, it's setting that tone there. Yeah, and I like when the guitar gets really whiny. I'm a big fan of a whiny guitar. So yeah, I was a fan.
Yeah, 100%. Then we drive into cruel. Then we drive into cruel times. That was an attempt at saying words.
That's usually my thing.
Which kind of keeps going with this shoegazy vibe, but I think we'll play a little bit of it and then we can. So this track for me was a tough one because I felt like it was really sleepy at some points, but still really heavy at the same time. and I found that conflict just didn't really excite me a whole bunch. Like that, like I kind of wanted it to be either the kind of like this post-punky style or be heavy, and when they were both kind of happening at the same time for me, it created a little bit of a conflict for me that I didn't love, and it made it really tough for me to draw the emotion out of it that I think was intended behind it by trying to have that juxtaposition. It'll be something that I kind of talk about a couple of times on this album, where I'm looking for something either a lot more rock or a lot more shoegaze, but when it kind of sits in the middle, this album, I find it kind of conflicts a little bit. And, you know, we talked on our last episode about, you know, Brandi Carlile and Elton John, how, like, they kind of conflicted each other. I feel like that kind of happens at some points throughout this album that just, and this is one of, like, the very, like, big focus tracks where I'm stuck on the fence with nothing substantial. I want to fall one side of the fence at some point, and it's not going there in either direction kind of throughout the whole album. And it kind of starts to lose me a little bit on here, but your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I feel like these first few tracks, while they're solid, I like them. They are a bit samey. The vocals are clean, but they're taking a back seat to the very crunchy guitar. That doesn't really switch up, you know, a lot. The tempo is kind of the same. I really do like the riff at the end of the song. I feel like it's a nice outro to this. But yeah, I like it. I like it a lot, but it's not exciting me, I guess. Like it's very. Oh God, I would listen to this music, this song, this album, certainly again, but I'm not like looking forward, like, oh, I can't wait for this song to come on. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of that with this song.
Yeah. For me, weirdly enough, the opening and the outro were my favorite parts of the song. Yeah, the middle kind of like drone on a little bit. Like the opening had that, gave me like a really dirty vibe before it picked up, and I really enjoyed that. And then the end where they kind of do like a little slow down before like it rears back up, I was a big fan of that. But yeah, I do agree that the middle kind of just like droned on a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. The outro does also play into the following song as well, which
is cool.
Is kind of a nice touch. And Sounds of Goodbye ended up kind of being a little bit more of a highlight for me too. So
Agreed.
It gave me a little bit more respect for Cruel Times. The Sounds of Goodbye kind of pulling into the next track. I gave it a little bit more credit than maybe I would have if it hadn't done that. But yeah, it pulls into Sounds of Goodbye, which we're going to listen to right now.
Nice. I mentioned Alice in Chains earlier, and I think this song, more than any of the others, are more Alice in Chains coded than anything, especially like more recent Alice in Chains, like Black Gives Way to Blue, their 2009 album, which I really like. I like the song a lot. I like this more, I think, than the previous two. I don't have a lot of other notes on it other than, yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mel?
Yeah, I put like the distorted guitar openings seem to be like a recurring trend. Past the distortion, the guitar felt like really, really familiar, but I couldn't pinpoint why. Like at one point I was like, is it Rob Zombie? Like where is it coming from? Something was like triggering a memory in my brain that I couldn't necessarily place. And then I thought I recognized the break beat in this, and I got excited because I was like, ooh, I think that's a break beat. Maybe I'm actually learning.
Nice.
So yeah.
I like this. I love the drum beat that plays in from Cruel Times coming directly into this. I thought was a nice touch on it. I think it's a cool way to make that transition over. The vocals on here were a lot more raw. I found like he allows his voice to actually like kind of break in certain moments and stuff like that on here, which makes it feel a lot more heavy, which is why it's tilting me off that fence a little bit more, I think, more so than anything, right? His vocals have been very much like shoegaze based with on a more metal album. This was one where it's just like, okay, now your vocals are kind of also shifting over to that more metallic kind of feel, and I appreciated that a lot on this side of it, especially over the last 3 tracks. That's what brought me in. It still has those really grungy guitars and like a bit more like grit in the vocals and the cadences. I really like how the vocals were cadenced in this, like a little bit better too. It gave it a little bit more, like I said, that grunginess, that heavier side of things to get me over to that side of the fence. It still lacked some identity between the two. That shoegaze and the rock kind of still playing it out, but this gave me the most confidence in them so far on the album because everything else still felt like we're trying to do both. This one felt like we want to do this, but with a touch of this. This is still like, this gave me a lot more confidence for how the rest of the album was going to end up turning out, which I appreciated a lot on that side for the track. And then we get to slow up and get a little bit more hardcore with Long Gone popping in, and let's give it a listen.
We're on a roll, getting how to keep us low. I just wanna let you know something's wrong.
That bass line in this song is fucking
Bass line's so good.
chef's kiss. I love the bass line.
So good. It slows up. Like I said, it's a little bit more hardcore, like a little bit more sludgy on the guitar rhythm, but the bass just owns this track. Like the
100%.
bass absolutely is the forefront on this, and I love that. It was really solid on that side. The only thing that I didn't like was, especially for how grungy this could be, his vocals just being as polished as they are, again, like brought me back over to like, okay, now I'm back on the fence again. Like I'm stuck in between these two things. I really wanted the grungier, grittier vocals of Sounds of Goodbye on this track.
Sure.
And I feel like it would have been perfect. You know what I mean? Like it's just, if you gave me a little bit more of that, give me something a little bit rougher on it, I think I would have appreciated it a lot more. But still a really solid track. I was a fan.
That's a fair take. I do like the floatier lyrics with this one for whatever reason. I think it just I don't know. This is probably my favorite song on the album, and I have a few favorites, but I think this is the one that I would keep coming back to. Just it gets me, you know. The song really gets me. So, what do you think,
I
Mom?
agree. I think this was also my favorite on the album. I really appreciated like the tone and vocal shift actually. I liked that the vocals almost made him feel like even more distant. Like I felt like I needed to really like lean in to listen more, which was cool. It like kind of drew me in more. And yeah, I loved the instrumental break. Like So yeah, this was probably a top track for me.
Yeah.
Yeah? No, that's fair. My top track is what's coming up right now.
That's not
with
surprising.
Hothead.
Yeah.
This is the
Right
tempo
now
change
is
that I was looking for. This is where we go rock, and this is what I was like. This is what I was waiting for on all of the other tracks.
Yeah.
I kind of expected them to inject a little bit of this into all of the other tracks, as opposed to make just kind of one track like this. But let's play a little bit so you can hear what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. High octane.
I like this a lot. This was, like I said, this is just the change up that I needed. It still has these notes of grunge in it, but this is also the most metallic by like a long shot. Like this is the closest to metal that this album really gets to on it. And like I said, this is where I finally got to pick a side of the fence and play there. You know what I mean? Like I got to enjoy being on a side of the fence, and that was what I was looking for kind of throughout the whole album.
Oh yeah, for sure. The high octane, high temperature on this one. I this for the style when it comes to the rest of the album, I feel like it may be a bit too much for me. I like it a lot. Don't get me wrong, but like I don't think it matches totally with everything else as much. And I know it's exactly what you're looking for, Brandito. For me, it was like more. I wouldn't call this a skippable track, but I'm looking forward to it less than some of the others when I want to re-listen, I think. What do you think?
Mel?
It was so short that I found it so interesting because like we sped back up so much just for it to be over in like what felt like a second. Like when I had my notes out and I was writing initially, my first listen through, I didn't even have a note for this because it was over faster than I could like come up with anything, which I thought was weird. So I did go back and listen to this album like 2 more times though, actually, because I don't know, I had the time. But yeah, I loved the guitar. The guitar was a big highlight for me here.
Agreed there.
I almost just wish it was like longer. I feel like it was over before I even realized it started.
98 seconds for the audience. Yeah, 98 seconds.
Crazy. Yeah.
I will admit it does feel like it doesn't fit in with the rest of the album, and so like that is a little bit of a spot for me, but it was what I was looking for from the rest of the album, so like that's why it was one of my favorites. But when you say like this feels like not really what I was hoping for out of the album, if you were not waiting for something like this, I can understand that entirely. This is what I wanted though. Like this is what I was hoping for. So, in case you're wondering exactly how things are probably going to play out for me when I come to my conclusion on everything,
you're going to be sad.
I got one of the things that I wanted.
You got a solid 98 seconds of what you wanted,
right?
Yeah, you got one scratch itched. Yeah,
because if you didn't realize, after Hothead, we completely revert to almost the other side of the fence. Now I got to jump the fence and go and play somewhere else with Conflicted Mood, which we'll give a little playthrough right now.
Yeah. one line. That's what we get.
Yeah, just one line. Yeah. That's all good. That's all we needed. I was trying to think. I'm just like, did I pull a clip that did actually have some vocals on it?
Nice.
Because honestly, the vocals.
There's not much.
I appreciated the vocals a lot on this album, but like this was the shoegaze that I think we were expecting. This is all the way into shoegaze. This is over filter on the guitar riffs. This is everything that is shoegaze. Like it showcased the vocals a lot better on this. I think having grit, like being both gritty but also like really clear and having that depth with it. But this is where I started to realize I really like when they pick a lane, regardless of which lane they pick. Yeah. I'm fine with the shoegaze style of them. I'm fine with the grungier side of them. It's when they're in between that I didn't really like, because I was like, okay, I liked Hothead so much. I really enjoy this too. I just needed to be on a side of the two. When the earlier tracks, I felt like I was stuck in the middle. This is when I realized, okay, they're really good at both of them, just maybe not at the same time.
Yeah.
But
that checks out. I wasn't expecting to find something on this album that I thought was so pretty. I thought this song was really, really pretty. Really, again, short and sweet, but like I really liked the switch up. And I liked that the opening for this one was more drum centered, and it like, because it was a nice switch up from just there's still like, you know, like hazy distorted guitars, but like it was more drum centered for me, which I appreciated.
Yeah, the song title is, you know, apt for me because I'm conflicted on this one. I like this kind of approach to music a lot, and for me it was just a tad too slow, for me. And I like slow instrumental like music like this, but like I don't know, it just something about it, especially after Hothead. Like coming from Hothead was fast, octane crazy, and then to Conflicted Mood is way too much of a tempo shift for me, I guess, and listening to
Like
back to
again.
back. You didn't really play too many of the lyrics, but this was giving me a little bit of Nirvana, even the way he was singing these lyrics, which I think is a good thing.
But also like an in utero Nirvana.
Yeah,
Not Sprite. Like it's
Not Teen Spirit, but,
No,
yeah.
no. Like in utero, like where it is like a slow burn and there's clearly things wrong, kind of
Yes.
a message behind it. Yeah, I got that as well.
Yeah. But yeah, I like it. There's something a little off about it for me, and I can't put my finger on why. I think it's the tone or the tempo rather, but
For sure.
Yeah.
It's funny because this like
Conflicted.
shifted back to what I was enjoying more. Like I
Same.
think I just realized
Yeah.
I like shoegaze though.
Right.
Like
Yeah, I completely agree. It's just whatever it is about the song, just the little
I
too
can't
soft.
wait to get you to finally listen to Radiohead, even though you said I hate Radiohead.
I'll give them a new. I got it as an adult.
I'm
I
like,
gotta
you like
revisit.
shoegaze. I'm like, maybe it's just not
Apparently I do.
OK Computer. I'm like, there's other Radiohead that you need to listen to because like
I gotta revisit. I
Yeah.
definitely have to revisit. Yeah.
100%. You just made me so excited. I'm like,
Yeah, because I apparently I really like shoegaze.
damn it.
Love shoegaze.
I've been trying to tell you this for 2 years. Straight up. Anyways, I actually, as soon as I started this song, I had to take it back almost instantly, all of these things I've been saying, because this song was not quite my favorite. I didn't like it more than Hothead, but this was a song that I felt like they actually balanced both perfectly.
Yeah.
And this is where I actually really enjoyed it. So here, you'll hear what I say.
Yeah.
It's like I'm under my own sky. It's like a new shade of blue. It's always hiding in plain sight. It's only real if you scared before.
Oh, breakdown there.
See, this was perfect. This was the perfect balance, in my opinion. This is what I think they were aiming to do throughout the whole album. That I wasn't liking. This was them finally like figuring out the right way to do it. This is where I could get behind them wanting to be grunge shoegaze. You know what I mean? Or I don't know, shoe grunge. What do you want to call it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is what I was looking for. This is the scene that I think they were trying to hit. It just they didn't do it yet until this one for me, which
Yeah.
I like. The composition I think does a lot of heavy lifting on that. I think more so than anything else. The way that they're actually like putting in the layers of sound to give that shoegazy feeling while still incorporating, like I said, that heavier, grungier kind of aesthetic is what does that. Whereas I think in the earlier ones, they try to kind of force in either the shoegazier sounds to what should be a little bit more of a grungier song, or vice versa. They try to kind of shoehorn in grunge into the shoegaze. Mm-hmm. Shoehorn, shoegaze. lots of shoe talk. Going
Lots of
on,
shoeing. Yeah.
right? But either way, I think this was the spot where they actually were able to genre bend properly, where they actually kind of merged together and play both together. I like that part a lot.
Yeah. What do you think, Mel?
I liked how staticky the guitar was here.
Yeah.
Like, really kind of like messy, which I really enjoyed. And I thought that on this one specifically, the instrumentals and his vocals, I thought paired so well. Like I felt like they like were really gearing up when he really started to bell, and like I just appreciated the balance happening there on this one a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah. A solid entry overall. Very Deftonesy. Very. It's floaty, but also you feel the guitar, you feel the crunch there, and it's just it's pleasing to me. It's pleasing. Yeah, I don't think it's the standout track. I still think that's long gone. I don't think it's a standout track, but I like it a lot. I love it.
For sure. And then we go into Next Time, which again I feel like continues. The back half of this album made up for me for what I thought I was missing in the first half of the album. For sure. By like
Fair.
a long shot. So let's play a little bit of Next Time.
Time passed, the things I thought would last, gone away, empty glass. Roll out my red carpet, please, just for the ways I used to.
Yeah. Second favorite song on the track or the album for me.
Yeah.
I like this one a lot.
Yeah, I get that. This is up there for me too.
Yeah.
I literally wrote, I'm like, I really need to make sure I don't let the first 3 tracks
Yeah.
change how I
Ruin
feel
it.
about the whole album, because this is starting to get in some really enjoyable spots where I think they are, like I said, they are perfectly threading that needle between the two of them. Just those first 3 tracks were just,
Yeah. Feels like they're experimenting the first 3 tracks and then just figured it out. After that,
they finally just hit the spot and they were like, cool,
Agreed.
like we can make a full album off of this.
Yeah.
They just kept those other experimentation tracks also
Yeah.
as part of the album, and I'm like,
I still kind of like them, though.
I think they're still good.
there's-
They're just maybe
I
not
think
as good, but
they're
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I think they're okay.
I liked them.
Don't really. They still just weren't for me. This is obviously a very '90s sounding track. I love the guitar riff on this track. Like, again, we're just we. It feels like they figured it out just a little bit too late. Once they actually got everything pressed and sent out, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, very melodic, very. This was an easy listen. This one, I like this one a lot.
Yeah, for me, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a solid track, but like nothing stood out for me to make a note of, if that makes sense. Like I feel like I listened to it a few times, being like, maybe there's something I can pick out, and it just like I didn't get anything, which was weird.
That's
but
fair.
I still liked it. Like I don't have anything bad to say about it. I enjoyed the track. There was just nothing that really
I also
was highlightable.
I just wrote down solid track.
I really, because I think because of how much I was not a fan of the first 3 tracks, I had a lot more to say about this track.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, because
You know,
I
like-
actually really enjoyed the
Yeah.
opening tracks.
Yeah, same.
Sure. So then it just felt like more of the same. I get that. I can understand that.
yeah.
Yeah, in a good way. Yeah.
And then we get what I think is probably the biggest feeling song on the album, The Curtain. This is where I think they kind of reverted back to the same things that were in the earlier part of the album, where they're conflicting. But we'll let you guys and the listeners decide after this.
And the Watchers.
If I can handle this, I don't know if I was ever meant for it.
I love that riff, that burr, 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 burr in the back. Oh, you're
I
still
agree.
playing it?
That is solid. This track though, again, like I feel like it conflicts stylistically, and I kind of realized on this final track that there's what I think was happening on the first couple of tracks that I didn't really love was just how open and the amount of space that it was allowing for the grunge and the shoegaze sounds to kind of conflict with one another. Where when everything was a little bit denser, everything was a little bit more combined, I thought it worked really well. This was obviously the most spacious, the biggest, I think, kind of the most epic side of what they did. And because it allowed so much space, I can hear just too independently the conflicting of the two styles kind of bashing heads. So this one was a big step back to close out the album, if I'm being honest. I get that it was meant to be epic and it's supposed to be it's clearly a close out the album song, and I can appreciate that for that part of it, but because of that, the styles that they try to kind of mesh together, I don't think mesh together well. You know? I think one's going one way, one's going the other way, and if you're making a basket, this basket has big holes in it because of how much space there is. Where if you tightened everything up the way that you did the last 3 tracks, I think it would work a lot better for me.
It's an interesting analogy. I felt the opposite on this one. I really did. I felt like that it all came together very well at the end here. I really felt like it is absolutely an ending song to an album, and I feel like it excels at that. It feels a little epic. It feels floaty, just like all the. It feels ballady. Absolutely feels ballady, and even like the vocals are less atmospheric and more like grounded, I guess, in a lot of this. No, I enjoyed this a lot. This is probably my 3rd favorite on the album, honestly. 3rd or 4th favorite.
Really?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. It was a good. I wrote down this is a good ending. I feel satisfied after hearing the song with the album in general. Yeah, I liked it.
Cool.
I thought it was funny how on the nose the title was for like a closing track. I was like, all right, yeah.
They do that a couple times, I feel
there.
like.
Yeah, they're just very on the nose with things.
Yeah.
I love a long instrumental opening, so I really appreciated that. And I thought ending on the line, but I don't want to waste your time, was such sad boy energy. But the
really
whole
is.
song was giving like big sad boy energy. So I'm a sad girl. I like sad boys too.
Yes, you do.
But yeah, no, I was sad. I was also satisfied with the closing track. I understand what you're saying, but like I was okay with it.
Yeah.
Like okay with it is fine. I'm okay with it, but I'm just saying it's
Not what you're
still
looking
very
for.
conflicting on that
Sure.
side of things, and that's
Yeah.
For me, that's a strength in a lot of ways. I agree that the first 3, I would say the first track I liked. The 2 tracks after that didn't do it for
Man.
me for all the reasons.
The numb to what is real, I like want to belt that.
Yeah?
Like I would have so much fun hearing that live, I think, which is crazy because it's like a slower tempo song.
I don't disagree. Yeah, and that's the thing with this album. I guess we can go into talk about the album now in general, but like I feel like every single song I would listen to again. They're all solid. I don't think there are standout songs. There's not a song I'm going to go to like, oh my god, I need to hear XYZ again. I need to hear Hothead again. I need to hear Long Gone. It's just like I will put on this album. I will enjoy the hell of it while it's on, and then just move on with my life. You know what I mean? Like
totally agree. Yeah.
but it's so good at the same time. Like I really enjoyed this album. You know?
nice.
Yeah, for me, I was like, the lyrics are straightforward, vocals are clean, or clear, like the instrumentals are solid, and I literally put, I feel like Brandito when I say this, but it's just like a good album. Nothing groundbreaking, just like a solid rock album.
Yeah.
Like, just, it was good. It was good.
It was good.
It was
It
good.
was good.
Yeah.
See, all in all, I don't mind the album. I think they needed to revisit just how stylistically things came across by the time it actually ended up, reaching people, which I think is the biggest thing. The more momentum the song seemed to have in its really grandeur, I honestly think the more you notice the conflictions of the two styles kind of pressing back against one another. There were times when this album did come together for me, like, really, really well, though. There were some tracks I really enjoyed on it, and it just took a little bit too long for those to click in for myself. This is the type of album, though, like, honestly, like, just knowing myself, this is the type of album that I'll revisit, like, in 2 years and think that I didn't appreciate it enough. This is also that type of an album for myself as well, where I'm going to go back and I'm just going to be like, you know what? Like, maybe I was just in a bad mood that day. Maybe there's something else that I was just not really, like, vibing with at that, like, particular instance that I'm now vibing with a lot more. This, for me, it just, like, it 4 of the tracks were just kind of the tracks where I felt like they were conflicting styles, and out of 10 tracks, that's a pretty significant chunk of the album that it just wasn't really working for me. And again, I might listen to it on a different sound system, you know what I mean, and end up appreciating it differently too. Especially shoegaze is really bad for that, where if you're missing certain aspects of certain notes on how it's composed, it can ruin it for you. Like
Sure.
you can miss very important pieces of it. And I would still recommend anybody to listen to the album. Just certainly not one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of the 3 albums I would recommend this one the most that we're going to cover. Certainly. And I think this album more than any of the others benefited a lot more from a second, third listen. I think I listened to this one 3 or 4 times as well. It was just,
I did too.
It was just on in the background a couple times, and then I really like dug into it. And yeah, overall very, very solid effort. By the way, is it common for a self-titled EP to be like done way later in a discography?
Like the third.
Yeah.
It happens. I think
It happens a lot.
For them to do it like to take a 9-year break and then come back with it is funny. But yeah.
But also remember that their original band name was
Was
forced to
Daylight,
change.
yeah.
So their first album, that also wasn't called Daylight, but like
That's a good point.
they took a big break between all of it. People didn't know who Superheaven was.
Yeah.
Until it blew up on TikTok, and everybody's just like, okay, like what's this album jar? And so they were like, okay, well maybe now it's kind of a re-debut for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of why they did that was hey, we're coming out with us again, not realizing that we were ever going to do that. So I understand it
That's
in the
fair.
context of this one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
as far as rating goes, I've seen and heard the term shoegaze a few times. We've mentioned that term many times on this podcast. This is the first time I really like understood. Oh, this is shoegaze. I really like shoegaze. Yeah, that just was Mel did the same thing. So, again, very very Deftones, very Austin Change. Love those bands a lot. I gave this a solid 8 out of 10. It's one I'll go back to again, not for a song, but for the album. You know.
There you go. Yeah. Mel?
Yeah, so it's funny, I listened to this album literally twice sitting at my desk when I was taking my notes. And then I enjoyed it and I was like, okay, I feel like this has more of like I need to rock out to it in the car vibe. So like I listened to it on my way home and found myself just appreciating it more and more. But I still don't think it's like anything is standout enough.
Yeah.
I did go back and listen to Jar though, and I really fucking liked Jar. So, yeah, if you find yourself listening to this, go back to Jar. It's significantly better. But I still gave it a 7-8 because I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I would listen to it again, but it's just not one of my favorites.
Fair enough. Yeah, see, for me, again, 4 of the 10 tracks just weren't really it for me. I found it very colluding, and that bothered me on it. And so, like, for myself, this was a 6-4. It was still good. I don't dislike it in any way, shape, or form.
Sure.
There's some tracks that I really, really enjoyed. I feel like if you trimmed or polished a couple of those tracks and found a way to... Honestly, again, I'll say a lot of it had to do with the pacing of some of the tracks that I felt like the slower pacing that was happening on some of them where they were trying to really kind of merge that shoegaze and the grunge vibe together. The tighter everything was, the less I noticed the conflictions.
Yeah.
And I think if they did that with those other tracks, or like I said, didn't have those tracks at all, I'd be kind of in a similar boat that you guys are.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But that about wraps up our
Solid start.
wraps up our review of Superheaven by
Superheaven.
There you go. Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah. Thanks.
Bye.
3, 2, 1.